Crystal, you're muted.
Of course, that's the thing that would happen. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everybody. I am getting the slides up. If you are able to see this slideshow, would you please? I'm sorry, the slide. Can I get a thumbs up or someone let me know, maybe with nods? Can you see the slides? Let's see. Or Karen, can you let me know if the slides are showing?
Yes, they are.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Almost evening. Welcome to this opportunity to do professional development together with me. And I'm excited to be here, excuse me, with you in this opportunity to think about humor in its protective nature as a protective factor. And we're going to talk about some ways to leverage joy in the form of humor as self care. I don't know about you, but I think many, if not all of us, could use a little self care in our lives. So I'm really happy to be back with you. I think this is the final time of at least of this school year that we're going to be workshopping together, but I'm excited to be back. For those of you that haven't had a session with me, I'm Crystal Elliott O'Connor. This coming August, I will be celebrating about 35 years in the field of early childhood education. And I've served all around the field during that time, from assistant teacher to federal program leader and all the spots in between. So this is the field of my love and of my dream. And it's been a really wildly rewarding ride. And I'm not ready to get off yet. So I see your names in your boxes. I think names are very important. And if we have some time to open our mics and I'm definitely going to try to call you by your name. I'm glad to meet those of you that I don't know already. So, as a practice, just to get us going and get ourselves participating, because this is a very large group, we will have, as Karen said, an opportunity to go into breakouts. We're going to do a little bit of individual work as well. Well, you'll have some time to think, but you're going to be using the chat most often to interact back and forth with me because the group is large. So let's do a little practice, okay? If you are driving or you are not at a place where you can be in the chat, that is fine. You're welcome to be with us, but you do not have to participate in sharing information in the chat. But for those of you who are able, let's go ahead and put in the chat just one thing that you'd like to say. It can be anything. You can say hello. You can say I'm tired. You can say let's get this over with. Share a favorite color or food or movie, whatever you want. Go ahead and just pop into the chat something you'd like to say to us. And let's get a little warm up and practice. Oh, thank you for the thumbs up in the chat. All righty. Oh, I need chocolate. Yes. Nayeli from CNE. Hello, my old friend. Good to see you. Warmer weather. Yes, Sharon. Agreed. Even though in the next moment it could be colder, but we're happy for today's weather. Awesome. People are sleepy. People are driving. Someone loves a good joke, which is awesome because I have a few in here. Good, maybe not, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Yes, Malia, or I hope it's Malia, Malia. I see. Yeah, absolutely. Self care is essential. Essential. Excellent. Keep them coming if you'd like to. And just a quick little disclaimer, I am working off two screens. So if you see me looking away, it's not because I'm looking out of the window and wanting to have such wanting to be outside with beautiful weather. It's just because I need to switch the slides. So let's go forward. There's research now about this. It's not historical necessarily that joy and humor has been researched in terms of our professionalism, but studies are showing that deriving joy from humor can be really hard to access as we get older, as we age into adults. It's kind of nudged right out of us by the cares of life, and there are social ideals in our world about maturity and what it means to be professional. So as we become adults and we go into careers and kind of into these places in life, it can be really hard for us to just go into a place where we are open and accessing humor, particularly through joy, particularly through humor. So we're going to get a chance to practice. We're going to take a few moments or so to just practice extracting the humor, the laughter, or a joyful moment from these next few clips. I just have a few. When you are watching them, and they're very quick, they're just little shorts, just start to notice your physical and biological selves. Notice your emotional self and your mental self as you do this, okay? Or watch this as you participate. Here we go.
This little boy has the greatest laugh, sounding like a 50-year-old man. This little boy has...
All right, here's another one. Let's check this one.
Hey!
Ha!
Hey!
Ha! Crazy dog, come here. Hey, come here.
All right, and finally, one more. We have
Hey, Emmanuel, do not do it. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel! Don't do it. I'm trying to educate people right now, okay? Can you just stop? Can you inches tall? Emmanuel, every time. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel, don't choose violence today. Please, every day we go through this. Gosh, it's never ending. Our black swan, actually. That may be him right over there. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel, you know what? Do it. How did that make you feel? Was it everything that you ever wanted and wished for and hoped for in life? Do you feel fulfilled now?
all right, Emmanuel. Yes, he did it. How many of us have those moments in the classroom, those Emmanuel moments, I call them. So what I'm going to ask you to do after just practicing a little bit of like extracting the humor out of those little short clips, go ahead in the chat and put which one of those little clips was your favorite of the three. Which one tickled you the most, if any? Okay, let's do that first, and we'll go and share in the chat which ones were funny. Emmanuel is winning, hands down. Yes, the voiceover, the baby laughing. Okay, they're coming up. Emmanuel, he's pretty famous. Emmanuel, don't do it, right? Emmanuel's handler, maybe. Awesome. They were all pretty funny. It was close. The baby boy. Yes. All right. Thank you. Keep those coming, though. Sometimes we get humor out of things, and sometimes we don't. Some of us may have thought all three of those were funny. Some of you said it. Some may have thought none of them were funny. Nothing there tickled your funny bone. And for some of us, we liked one over the other, or a couple of them and not the other one. What I'm trying to highlight here is that humor is very, very subjective, okay? It is individual and personal. What's funny to one person may absolutely not at all be funny to someone else. And another person, like our baby here on the end, may not even get it or may not even understand what the humor was supposed to be in something. The continuum of humor, I think of humor along a continuum, and the continuum is really long. It's very, very long. It goes from the silly and slapstick, like what I call it goofy humor, all the way across and touches every type or category of humor that we can think of, all the way over to what may be called or referred to as blue humor, or even humor that's at the expense of someone else or another person or another people group. All humor isn't positive, and all humor isn't even useful. But on an individual level, where I sit, where you sit in your own personal life, no one of us, I can't tell you what is funny to you, or even what should be funny to you, or what shouldn't be funny to you, and vice versa. No one of us can tell another one of us what's funny or what should be funny or what they shouldn't find funny. So for our time together today, I just want to remind us of that. And I want us to hold that in our memory. If I share something here that isn't funny to you, just remember humor is subjective. Okay. Let's go forward. Here's a little funny for you. Okay. So I spent time writing jokes and limericks for this special presentation. So go ahead and read through this little limerick to get a little chuckle for yourself. I'll give you a moment. Just trying my hand at limericks. All right, let's keep going. So here's kind of how we're going to move for today. I just call it our flow. It's our agenda for today, but it's not hard and fast. The first thing we're going to do that we're going to go into next is just look at some terms and phrases and concepts and definitions so that we can level set for ourselves for our own intents and purposes with this session. Then I have a shared activity that we can do. We're going to look at the science of humor, kind of the research in humor and laughter and joy. And then we're going to look at a process, a way that we can leverage humor and joy for ourselves personally, and that will serve our professional selves as well. And then I have a little planning for you to try it if you so choose to try doing that. And then we're going to wrap it up. If we have time, we'll have some conversations, some Q&A, some thoughts and insights. If we don't, you will have access to me via email, because I love to talk to people and hear what your insights and things are. Okay, so that is our flow for this session. Let's keep going. Take a look at the dot points on this slide. Life in general is stressful, especially as we become adults. You know, we experience all various types of stress at different points in our lives, right? From just the daily stress of everyday living to all of the types of stress that are emergent, distress, and sometimes worse. Sometimes it becomes trauma or trauma exposure. And if you look at these dot points, you can see all the ways that we could possibly experience stress or stressful events as we're living our lives. Again, everything from the daily stress of living to having a lack of professional fulfillment in our jobs. And so that can be stressful, to having personal struggles in our lives. And I always put an etc. because my lists are never exhaustive. There are so many things that we experience that I can't remember, I haven't experienced it, and I cannot note it for us. But you can think about those things as we're going through the session. So with so much going on, it can be really hard to think that something like humor, something that really doesn't have to be a big deal, something that doesn't have to be difficult for us to access, that can be a really great way to cope with and to mitigate some of the stressors that are in our lives. But it's true. It really is true. A little humor can go a long way as a protective factor in your life and in my life. And we're going to talk more about that in a bit, but I just wanted to start unpacking this concept that humor is really a protective factor for us, and it doesn't have to be difficult for us to access. So on this slide, this is my assertion for us today. This is what I want to leave with you if I don't leave anything else. This is what I feel like is super important. Humor can literally protect your well-being, and there is science to back that up. Okay, so research around humor and around joy, again, as I said, it hasn't historically been really integrated into our career lives, into our personal practices yet. But since COVID-19 and the impact that had on human psyches, on our individual mental health and well-being, and with the increasingly more stressful world that we're living in right now, there's been a little corner of academia that's been looking at how humor and laughter and joy, how all of those things can help us cope as individuals who have a lot on our plates and a lot in our minds. So there is emerging research that's connecting with kind of the more biological research around what humor does in our brains that is helping us bring it into the professional arena as coping strategies. So, I mean, let's face it, as early childhood practitioners, we hold a lot. Okay. People may think, well, you're not lawyers, you're not doctors. Listen, we hold a lot in our hands with our country's youngest citizens, our youngest babies. But even so, this isn't just about you as an employee or as an early childhood educator or as an administrator. It's about all of you. It's about yourself holistically. It's how you are personally, how you are individually and privately. And the point is for humor to help you be a better professional because you have this protective factor in your own individual life. Okay. So this is like one of the keys that I want to leave with you. How can humor, though, help you go from this lady, this very frustrated lady that we see here on the slide? She is an educator. We see that at her desk. And then how can we go from her to her? Let's look at this next teacher. She's a little blurry. I'm sorry about that. I blew her up, I think, too large. But here's a joyful teacher, right? With children. But she isn't joyful. She isn't a pleasant teacher because she just told a joke or she heard a funny story in this moment that we see right here. That's not why she's joyful. This is a person who has concrete supports to help her overall well-being, her holistic self. And one of those supports, just one of them, is that she's able to access humor in her life as a conduit for joy, as a way to find little moments of joy. This teacher experiences joyful moments through humor, and those allow her brain and her body to biologically and physically take a real break and kind of download some specific hormones that simply make her feel good. Okay, so joy is one way to cope with our daily lives, and humor is one way to access joy. Not the only way, but one way. Humor itself is a protective factor. It can literally improve your well-being. If you have comments or thoughts about that, please go ahead and put that into the chat in just a little bit. You'll have some time to work individually, and then I can go into the chat and see what you're saying. If there's a question or comment, please write it down so you don't lose it, because hopefully we'll have some time at the end to get into comments and questions and things like that. Okay. If you raise your hand or something like that, I can't quite see you because I'm sharing slides, but Karen can help me if I need help. If someone has something burning you need to say. Okay. So my assertion a couple slides back was that humor is a protective factor, and it can literally help support and shape your well-being. So remember this, ensuring that there's humor in your life, it can make you a better teacher, a better administrator, a better supervisor, a better colleague and coworker. It's that direct. Okay. The impact, the effects of accessing humor in your life directly impact the type of you that you show up as in all ways, including your professional self. So let's level set. We talked about that we were going to do that. So for the intents and purposes that we are together, let's just make sure we're all starting with kind of the same definitions, the same understandings of these main concepts that we're talking about. So here's the first one. And to keep you from having to just hear me constantly, because you're going to have to hear a lot of me, I'm going to give you opportunities to just read what's on the slide for yourself. So here's what I mean by humor. This is the definition of humor that I am using, and you can go ahead and read that. Okay. And just a little key down there, you see below that a person with a sense of humor is a person who possesses ability to integrate things that are funny, to integrate the humorous into their thinking and into their sensibilities. Not everyone has a sense of humor. I say that with no judgment. Everybody's different. People are different. Some people just don't have that ability to again, extract what's funny or what's humorous into what they're doing in a moment. Some people keep those things very separated. We have another one. So that's humor. That's the definition of humor. Let's look at what a protective factor actually is. When I say protective factor, we know that we have protective factors that are listed from our work and our learning, things like concrete support in the times of need, knowledge of early childhood education. Those are our set of protective factors. This is what I mean when I talk about humor as a protective factor on a broader scale. Go ahead and read that definition. Okay. So protective factors of all types can buffer us, our lives, our well-being, our psychological selves against the negative effects of adversity. Accessing a protective factor in the time of need or in the time of adversity can serve as a buffer. We understand that when we talk about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And in most recent years, since about 2019, we've been talking about the PCEs or the PACEs, positive childhood experiences that buffer against those adverse ones. We are thinking today about humor in that same exact way, a way to buffer against just the daily stresses of life that we deal with. Okay. And here is the final one for this part, this section. This is all about self-care. We hear a lot about we've learned a lot and we've accessed self-care a ton since 2020. Thank goodness it became acceptable in the professional arena to access self-care when we need it, because we had been through a global pandemic, right? And so many other things, civil unrest and all sorts of other things. Self-care is the practice of taking an active role in protecting your own happiness, joy, well-being, physical self, psychological self, particularly during times of stress. So self-care is extremely important in this conversation that we're having, because it is the goal of why we want to access humor and use it to get to joy. And just as a note here, there are so many types of effective self-care. We know a lot about yoga and breathing and meditating and some other things that we use, but humor is another way to provide self-care for yourself. Let's keep moving. So this is a moment for you. And while you are doing this, just taking some notes to yourself, maybe you have a Word document open if you're on a computer, or maybe you have a little notepad or something with you, or maybe you can just think about it for yourself in your mind. There are some prompts here on this slide that I'd love you to think about and kind of jot some things down if you're able, or hold some things in your mind, because we are going to come back to some of these thoughts in a little bit of a different way, but it'll be helpful for you then. So what cracks you up? What's funny to you? What makes you laugh? And I mean really laugh, not just like giggle or sniggle, as my grandmother used to say, giggling and sniggling. But what really makes you not be able to contain yourself? And why do you think it affects you that way? Why do you think that thing has that kind of impact on you? And I want you to think about how you feel during experiencing that, and then after you've had that really good laugh, and just get some things down or note some things to yourself. We'll do this for about 45 seconds to a minute. You can get some things down.
While they're doing that, there was one question: at what point is unhealthy to use humor as a coping mechanism shield?
Oh, I see that. Thank you. Thank you. At what point is it unhealthy to use humor as a coping mechanism or shield? That's a great question. Number one, I think that's subjective because it's dependent on people's need to escape. And we know that there is a healthy point. There is a point where escapism becomes unhealthy because we're not facing something or we're not dealing with something. So that's individual, and I can't answer that for everyone, but I would say at the point that it is keeping me, I'll say me, Michael, from dealing with something that I really need to deal with. If I'm just using humor to continually deflect, that is probably not healthy for me. That's one response. The other response, I would go back to remembering that humor is subjective, but also it's not all useful or positive and can be harmful. So if I'm finding myself, again, I'll use me, continually participating in hurtful and harmful humor to access joy, I'm probably not helping my well-being. I'm probably exercising something different. I hope that answers. That's what I would offer about that. Great question. Okay, I see some of these things rolling in. The sound of babies laughing, for sure. Virginia's husband when he acts like a toddler. Real irony in real time. Love that myself too. I like a little sarcasm too when it's rolling in real time. Animals and kids. Yes. How many of us stay up on social media scrolling the cat memes and the puppy memes and things like that? Internet memes. These are great, great, great. You're welcome, Michael. Thank you. Work friends. Yes. Observational humor about life. These are so good. Yes, things children say or do. Kids say the darndest things, right? When I'm giving directions and and the person goes opposite. These are awesome. Really funny move. These are great ways to access humor. Yes. Keep them coming and just keep those kind of noted to yourself. I'm taking note of some of those for myself too, because some of those I've forgotten about. We will come back to this when we have an opportunity to share a little bit more. All right, here's a little joke for you. Okay, go ahead and read that. Because as Trent said, who doesn't love a good joke? Sorry, there's the joke. All right, the center director broke up with their planner. All right, so while you're coming down off the laughter of that joke, and I just want you to know I wrote these all myself. I don't claim any special talent, but I wanted to try my hand at them. What is the science saying about what we're talking about? You know, there is research and there's science into humor, into laughter, and into joy. It's only been recently that it's been crossing over into our professional lives, but it's been there biologically in the medical field for a while. So I did pull some of that research and I kind of compiled what the majority of them were saying to kind of three big picture things. Okay, so this first one from Big Think asserted that a sense of humor is an effective life skill, almost even essential, one would say. You can think of it as your mind's immune system, the way that your mind fights off in a healthy manner, to Michael's point, things that can and will harm it. You see here in these 4 red dot points what humor can actually do as you know, physically and emotionally for you. So it lowers the risk of clinical depression. And there are research studies that are showing this significant drop in the risk of clinical depression. It serves as an emotional filter. Humor helps us take a break from the emotions in the moment, and just be able to take a break, laugh about something or giggle about something, and then come back in stronger to try and cope and try to handle that thing. Humor actually improves our people skills. It makes us more attractive, and I don't mean physically attractive, I mean like emotionally attractive to people. It kind of puts a smile on our face, it makes us open, and it improves our leadership skills. If we can lead from humor, from a lens of humor, and sometimes understand that things are just going to be funny, everything's not so serious, everything's not such a heavy concept, we become better leaders with that. So that's one thing. We're going through a little bit of a primer of what the science and the research is telling us about humor and laughter. Okay. So you may ask on this next slide, is laughter really that important? Like, I don't think about laughter as an essential part of my life. Well, the research says that it is instinctual, that every people group, every culture, even animals, many animals use laughter because it's actually at its biological granular level. It's a vocalization when we laugh. It's a sound that we make. However we laugh, everybody has a unique laugh. It's a sound we make, and that vocalization, it bonds people together. It is a common bond, and that's how it is set up biologically. That's why we find that laughter can move from person to person. Someone starts giggling, or you see someone giggling. I've seen it on newscasters a lot. One of the anchor people will start giggling, and the show is just shut down because they can't stop it. Everybody starts laughing. The weather person starts laughing. The camera people start laughing because it's a binding vocalization. It's common to all people and all people groups. That second point there, that spontaneous laughter, the reason it flows from person to person like that is because it's neurologically based. It is based in the brain, and it also uses more than one region of the brain. When you are laughing, when you are accessing laughter and joy through humor, there are several parts of your brain that actually light up. It's not just that one part. And a couple things at the bottom here, people who share laughter together, they work better together. They form better teams, they're able to solve problems better, and they work more efficiently with shared laughter. Particularly if something has happened and you're trying to resolve a conflict or solve a problem or something in a work group or on a work team, and there may be some spontaneous humor there and you laugh a little bit. You know how you start to call yourselves or each other, or maybe your boss is like, okay, let's get down to business. Let's get back to work. And you start to call each other back to work. When you go into the work that second time, that's usually where the ideas happen. The resolutions come up, the ways to resolve things come up, because your brain has released some of its tension, some of its stress, and some hormones that help those processes along. So again, this is what the science is saying. Humor and laughter promote joy, and they're really important in our lives. They make us better people, and they make us better professionals, better practitioners. So this is the final one about the science. We're kind of level setting, and we're a little bit deep in the science now. As a primer, joy is the goal, accessing joy through humor and through laughter. So you may be thinking, why is that important? What's so beneficial about it? I've never heard this or never learned this. Well, when we're experiencing joy, during experiences of the type of joy that comes from humor or laughter, or humor and laughter, your body actually releases several hormones. Your brain releases them, and those contribute to feelings of well-being, feelings of health, feelings of overall contentment. And the hormones that do that, I know you've heard of them. If I ask you to put them in the chat, you could probably put some of these hormones in the chat. Let's put some. What are some of the hormones that are released through laughter and joy in our brain? There are 3. Let's see if we can get them. I wish I had a prize for whoever got them first. I don't, but let's see if we can put some down. Serotonin, that's one of them. Ding, ding, ding. Laura, serotonin. What's the second one? Epinephrine, that's a good answer. It is a type of this next one. Dopamine, Elise, ding, 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 and Trent. That's the second one. One more, of which epinephrine is a type of this. One one more. We've got the dopamine, the epinephrine, serotonin, adrenaline, a type that can come in other ways. This final one is endorphins. Mary, yes, absolutely. Nicely done. You all get a big prize. During experiences of joy, when we are experiencing humor and laughter, and it is bringing us joy, our brains are releasing all three of these types of hormones: endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin. This makes us feel good, period. We feel better. Yes, it's temporary. Yes, it wears off. But in the moments that we are experiencing it, you see here on these next purple dot points all of the things that can happen and that can come from that. It just makes me joyful to share this research with you because I was surprised when I started looking into this. Uh, Experiencing joy through laughter fosters authentic relationships with significant others, like real relationships. You are bringing, when you are in joyful moments and laughter, you bring your real self to everything that you're doing. And so it helps you to relate to people better from your authentic self. It strengthens your individual and communal resilience. We can handle things better when there's joy in our lives. Again, it reduces the risk of clinical depression. We talked about that. Here's one that is drawn directly from ACEs too. It reduces the use of risky behaviors as coping skills. So like Michael was bringing up, we're not over in that unhealthy space where we're using vices maybe to cope with life, or we're using things that are harmful. They are risky behaviors. We can access joy and humor and feel better more than we need to access something that may harm us differently. Our immune systems are actually boosted when we're experiencing joy. Our immune systems work better during those few moments. Joy, laughter, humor can literally reduce physical pain. There are hospital and pain clinic studies that support this, and they can contribute to a longer lifespan. So we should be laughing more. It will help us live longer and then be better at everything we do while we're living. So let's practice. I have another little humorous interlude here for you. Go ahead and read through this. This was another little attempt at poetry for me. So go ahead. So during that little moment or two while you're reading that, your immune system is working better. You are feeling more like your authentic self. Your brain is your brain is releasing hormones that are making you feel good. So there's that little moment. Okay. So let's take a little break here before we move on to kind of what is the next part. If there are questions, comments, thoughts, feel free, please, to open your mic if there's something you'd like to share out loud, and or you can put it in the chat and I will engage with you there too. But let's just take a moment to think and kind of get ready to shift a little bit. Is there anything that anyone would like to share at this point? Anything you're thinking about? Well, let's keep going. The chat is open to you if you'd like to do that. Take a couple breaths and then, so we've learned, or we've been reminded of, maybe, because maybe you already knew this, we've learned a few concepts and ideas now. Okay, so let's put these ingredients together and we're going to make a little self-care cake for ourselves. Okay, and we're going to think about how we can leverage humor and laughter to our own benefit, to your benefit. What is in all of this stuff that I just talked about? What's in it for you, right? So I want you to know this is both conceptual and it's metacognitive. Okay, so this is a little bit deep. It's not just let's all come together and laugh, ha ha ha. There are things about it that we want to understand. And when we become metacognitive and we examine concepts in their nature, that helps us be very self-reflective. We become focused on ourselves, which is important. We need to do that. Yes, we are care providers. Yes, we are early childhood education practitioners. We are administrators. We own family child cares. We run businesses. We run programs. We do all of these things. But we need to take time out and have the world to give us permission to be self-reflective and to take care of ourselves. I found this area to be really greatly diminished, if not almost erased, in my own professional work with educators. When I talk about what about you, what are your experiences with trauma, with it's really hard for them to go there because we think so much about the children and the families, and we should. That's our purpose, but we really don't get enough opportunities to focus on our whole full selves and what we bring to the early childhood space. Okay, so it's important for us to think about what value you bring as your unique self and what areas you can focus on to heal or to change something about yourself. And as you do your work with children who also may be socially or emotionally or mentally wounded in some similar ways, you can bring kind of that whole knowledge of yourself into that space to help that child, to help that colleague, to help that family. Okay, so this is the metacognitive piece that I want to open up for us here. The concept of humor as a way to protect ourselves socially, emotionally, and mentally is one that can actually be harnessed to our benefit. We can lay hold of it to help us. Humor and laughter and joyful interludes, they produce exactly what our brains need to help our bodies relax, to help our minds calm down and decompress, right? It helps our emotions level off. And all of this increases our mental and our physical well-being. So it leads us to self-reflective moments, which lead us to authentic beings in ourselves. And that's important. It sounds like a lot of jargon for something like laughter, but that's why I'm presenting it here. It is really based in research and in science, and it is true what it does for us. Okay, so we're going to stay in the metacognitive now. This is where we're going to get to a shared activity. We're going to stay in the metacognitive, and it may seem weird to be, thinking deeply about this, but considering the many positive effects that humor has, we do good for ourselves and our well-being to take this time. It's worth exploration. So here's a process if you look at this slide. Okay, so I'm going to give you a moment or two to just explore these thought prompts. Okay, again, you can take notes, you can put it on a separate sheet of paper, you can just keep it in your brain somewhere, but go through these and really ask yourself, your real true self, some of these questions. Okay. And we are going to come back to these and use them in just a few slides over, and you're going to have significant time to do it. But I just want you to start thinking that way now. Okay, so hold on to those for just a few moments. We are going to come back around to them and the other part when you were thinking about what cracks you up. I just want to kind of admonish a little bit that once you do have an idea of what gets you laughing and what gives you joy, that you should take it seriously. it's important to who you are, and you shouldn't have to like shove it aside and think, well, every now and again I can do that. You should take it seriously, and maybe even keep a journal or somehow keep notes of how you feel before you access that humor, however it is, and how you feel after, as a way to notice its impact on your overall well-being. So when you know the types of things that give you joy through humor, the things that make you laugh, these three things are important. Go ahead and schedule that into your life. For me, I have a certain time of evening every day that I give myself. I set it up, and that's the time that I'm going to look at kitten memes, and I'm going to look at funny little shorts, and I'm going to open, I have a joke book here. I have one and my husband has one. I'm going to look at my joke book. Like, that's the time that I schedule it in because I need it and it's essential for me. It is very effective. So schedule it into your life maybe, and then hold that time and space a little bit sacred. Hold it a little bit like, nobody's gonna really get on this time unless I really have to do something else. And then plan it in. Plan for how to make it happen. Sometimes it may cost a little bit more because maybe you like comedy shows and you need to get tickets for that and you need to go somewhere. Maybe there's a movie that you want to go and see that brings you that joy through humor. But schedule that in and then plan for how to make it happen. Remember, it doesn't have to be super expensive. You don't have to travel necessarily. You don't have to spend a ton of money to get a little funny in your life. So think about ways to be able to do that and what it does for you when you do it. It can feel really like uncomfortable, unfamiliar for sure, and maybe even like self-indulgent to be spending really good brain energy that we need on just ways to find the funny in our lives. We need practice in doing that sometimes if we're not people who just kind of live into that. So we're going to do a little activity together, the way I walked through this process. Okay, so we're gonna do me. Okay, and then we're gonna do me on the next slide or two, and then you're gonna have a chance to revisit those things that you said make you laugh and crack you up, and spend some good time walking through this process yourself. Okay, so let's move forward and just do this together in practice. Let's see, if I have a little clip here, and I may have to get past commercials because, it's YouTube, which is free for me to use. So if I have to go past commercials to the skip, just bear with me. But I'd like you to watch this short little clip with me. Now, I want to say a couple disclaimers. This may trigger someone for several reasons, a few reasons, and I want to name that, and I want to invite you to take care of yourself. So if you need to mute the sound, if you need to don't watch it, maybe turn it off or get up and go get a drink of water or something like that. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. When it starts from the commercial part, I will play through to about 2 minutes and 39 seconds, I think. So, if you do go away, then you can return in about 2.5 minutes or so. I just want to note that it may be triggering, but again, remember, humor is subjective. And so what's funny to me may or may not be funny to you at all, but we are walking through the process with my little funny, just as an example of how you're going to walk through your own. Okay. So enjoy this little clip with me.
You bring yourself in this house right now. And if you think that 30-minute ride home was something, believe me, we've all made just speak up. You're lying on the floor of some burning building, dying of asphyxia, and you're down in Baltimore, having big fun. Weren't you, Vanessa? Isn't that where you were? Didn't you go down there to Baltimore and have big fun, Vanessa? Tell me, didn't you go for big fun?
Mom?
Shut up! Don't you dare open your mouth when I'm asking you a question. Rudy, go to bed. I only hope that you can have the same experience, Vanessa. I hope that one day you come to realize exactly how it feels to think that your child's life is in danger. You have taken us from levels of frenzy, panic, distress, and now that we know you're okay, rage. That's where we are right now, Vanessa. We are in rage because we know that you have been to Baltimore, Maryland, with the wretched to have big fun. Big fun. Isn't that what you had, Vanessa? Didn't you have big fun? Well, let's see now. You had donuts. Had donuts in Wilmington, Delaware. Cliff, tell me, have you ever been to Wilmington for donuts?
Not on the weekend.
There she is, sitting up in the local donut shop in Wilmington, Delaware, sipping hot chocolate and eating crumbs, and the car gets stolen. Now, a normal individual with half a gnat's brain would have said, I'm going home now. But you? Oh, no, not you. You and your 3 friends put yourselves on a bus and go joyride off to Baltimore. All the way to Baltimore.
What were you thinking?
I wasn't thinking.
You got that right.
Did you really think that the 4 of you could go off careening into the night and not one single parent would find out about it? Did you really think that, Vanessa? Shut up! Because I know what was going on. You were off being wild and free with the wretched and singing the wretched song. Now, I know you told me about it in the car, Vanessa, but just for the record, one more time, how did it come to pass that you did not get into the concert with the wretched and the big fun? You better answer me when I ask you a question, girl.
Ooh, tickles me every time. That was my little, that was one of the ways I access humor, joy through humor and laughter when I need it. I keep that in my saved things on YouTube, and I just go every now and again and watch it. On this slide this is me walking through this process, okay? And so we're gonna do mine, we're gonna walk through mine, and then you'll be able to do this for yourself with your own ways of accessing humor and joy. So for me, what's funny or humorous? Why is this joyful for me? Well, for me, I think it's funny how Vanessa, and this is in the 80s, I was a teenager in the 80s, so this is very relevant to me and my high school and undergraduate years. And Vanessa in this one thinks that she fooled her parents. If you watch the whole episode, she does a whole thing to get to Baltimore to see this band called The Wretched. And I relate to her trying those things in the 80s and thinking that she fooled her parents. And then watching her mom, watching Clara Huxtable, work to really control her anger, but still get across to her daughter, like, this is not okay, what you've done. So those things just take me back to a time when I was doing some of those same types of shenanigans and thinking I got away with something. That's why it's funny to me. These 4 dot points you see here are why it's joyful for me. I resonate with it. As I was said, I was raised this way ethnically and culturally, and as a child of a professional mother. So some of this same stuff with my mom coming home from work and finding out that I was up to something and then letting me have it, talking to me about it, but in a way that she was expressing her unhappiness with what I had done, just resonates with me. Now, this clip is an exaggeration of how my mom would do, but for me, it felt like how it felt to get into trouble. And now I'm 57 years old. My mother is no longer with us, but this brings me, what do you call the word when you I can't think of the word, but reminisce. This makes me reminisce on growing up with my mother, and it brings back memories to me of my childhood and the similar childhoods of my siblings and my friends, and just reminds me of also when I was raising my daughters and when they became teenagers, how I took a very Claire Huxtable approach with them in my mind, like attempting to talk to them about things and hold myself together while they were making me want to choke them pretty much. And so that's why these things are joyful for me. And then, how do I feel when I watch this clip? This clip is more than 30 years old. um, I've aged with the clip. And when I watch it, I feel nostalgic. It makes me reminisce. It makes me feel warm. And I think back to what, we always have the good old days or what was a better time. For me, a more fun time in my life. And it makes me just kind of lighten up emotionally and not thinking about in that moment the things that are troubling me or that are bothering me. And very often when I pull this up, I may send it to one of my siblings or one of my friends or someone who had a similar upbringing. And that we laugh about it together, or they may make another comment. It's just one of those things for us that never gets old. Okay. So that's the process that I walk through to access humor, laughter, to get joy in my life. And I want you to do that too in just a moment. And I just want you to remember it's not just about the professional me. It's not just about me as an educator. It's about all of me. It's about the holistic me. And this clip, and there are many, many other things that I find funny too, but this is one of my favorite. It feeds me emotionally because it makes me laugh and it makes me reminisce. And so it's funny to me, but something else may be funny or humorous or joyful to you. Okay. So let's think about that. You'll have some time to do a little reflecting with this same process. And then we're going to share because I think we're doing really good on time and we'll be able to share. Okay. So, about for the next, let's just take 5 quiet minutes. Okay. And you can access when you talked about what cracked you up, several slides up. And then you talked about again, kind of what makes you funny. We makes what is funny to you and makes you laugh. We ramped into that. Now here's where you get to just sit and really walk through these prompts. What's funny to you? What are some of the reasons that brings you joy? How do you feel when you see it or you hear it or you do it, when you participate in it? And how can you access it easily or often or more often? I have mine saved and that's how I do it. So let's just take 5 minutes to walk through this on your own. And then after that, we're going to have an opportunity to share in groups with one another. Okay, great. And if you have questions, you can go ahead and put it in the chat because I'll be able to access it. At least some of those. Sorry. Hopefully you had a little time to walk through at least some of those prompts, if not all of them. Karen, I would like us, we have the time to go into breakout rooms. So thank you so much for getting those set up for us. We are going to go into breakout rooms if you are able to participate. And there's a couple prompts that I have for you, and I'm going to put them right here in the chat while you're in your room. The first one is, did you learn anything or remember anything interesting about yourself while you were going through those prompts and kind of doing that process? When I do it, I find that I have moments of like, aha, about me. And the second one is, did you notice any changes in your mood or how you feel as you were thinking about what is humorous to you? Did you notice any changes in your mood, like right now, this moment, or how you're feeling? And I'll put right now as you were thinking about this and doing this process. And Karen, when you're ready, if you could get us into groups that make sense for however many people are here. And let's do that for the next 10 minutes. We'll give you a nice amount of time to talk with one another. And please do talk in your groups if you're in there and you're able, if you're not, driving or something, to share with one another about what you find funny and why. We'll come back together about 5:14-ish. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. And thank you, everybody, for taking that time and that opportunity to share with one another. Is there anything that anyone heard that you hadn't thought of that might be interesting to you in terms of accessing humor? And without like sharing anyone else's story or anything, was there anything that you heard in your groups that you're like, hey, that's a point for me. That's an aha moment. If so, you can go ahead and open your mic and share it with us. Ah, my mic. Are you not hearing me that well? Let me get closer. My mic is all the way up, so I'll talk louder. Okay, I am seeing some come through the chat as well. Old friends that know all of your stories. Yeah, no problem. Anything that you heard that made you, I remembered my joke books that are kind of in on the bookshelf and I hadn't taken them down when someone earlier was talking about telling jokes. So I was like, oh yeah, I love reading through my joke book. Okay, well, if you have something you want to share, go ahead and put that in the chat. We'll move forward with this last part before we get to a little bit of discussion. So this is your time, okay? I am not, yes, I am. You can see the slides, right? Thumbs up.
No, you'll need to reshare.
Oh, I can see them, but you can't see them. Here we go. No wonder everybody was kind of like, what? All right, slides up.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Let me get this out of my way so I can see. Okay, so if you'd like to try to gain some of the benefits of finding joy through humor, let's take just a few minutes now. Again, this is some individual work that you can do. Let's take a few minutes and start a little action planning. Just about every professional development session I do, I like to give people an opportunity to think through it and see how they can put it into practice with a little bit of action planning. So take a look at the prompts here on this slide. What's funny or humorous to you? You've had several opportunities to kind of access some of that now and think about that. Now take that and think about what are at least two ways you can find that thing and enjoy it. Do you need to pull it up? Do you need to buy tickets? Do you need to get together with friends? Like, what are at least two ways in your action planning that you can actually get there? Not just think about it, but be able to do it. And then that letter C is, when are you going to have time or make the time to go ahead and engage in that thing? What time are you going to be able to hold as sacred as you can to be able to do that? And then finally, how are you going to hold time for that moment? You know, what do you need to do to make sure you can do it? Do you need to food prep so that you can spend some time that you might normally spend cooking a meal? Do you need to make sure that you actually take your break when you're working, that you actually take your break so you can go and access a little humor? What do you need to do? Let's just take the next couple minutes and start a little action planning. This is going to be another quiet time for you to just get some of those things written down for yourself. This is your opportunity to make sure that you can leverage humor to access joy and to make you a better you. Each one of them. In the chat, making sure that you have time. Being in the classroom, especially with the younger and middle grades, makes me feel younger and often full of joy. So many of their bright ideas and comments are great for some thought and often good for a laugh, even if it was not intended. Yes, I love the way we're accessing these. Really nice. Okay, so while I don't want to pull you too far away from your planning, I'm glad you were able to get some of that started. Um, just I just want you to know I'm leaving a couple of things with you, those assertions, and just to remember that, you know, improve well-being, your well-being, being better is going to make you a better early childhood practitioner. It's going to make you a better you all around. And your work is included in that. So if you don't take things away from this, a lot of details, take those big picture concepts away. Okay. And before we finish, I have one final funny for you, but we do have some time left. So I want to open the floor. I'm going to stop sharing for this, and then I will share again for the last kind of way that we're going to go out together. What did this make you think about? What were some of the aha moments? What had you not thought about before? You can go ahead and unmute yourself and share. Anything?
Hi, I would say that um, when you said that laughter was subjective, I've been in many situations where someone's laughing at something and I'm looking at them like, that's not funny. I didn't find that funny. And sometimes you can feel like, oh, well, should I have found that funny? Was I supposed to laugh? But just because it's funny to somebody else doesn't mean it's necessarily funny to me, and I don't have to feel obligated to laugh because they found something humorous. And it's okay. That is okay.
That is okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. And you also get the party award for being the first one to open
Oh.
your mic and share. So that's for you. And as other people are preparing to open your mic and share, there are some coming through the chat as well. It's okay to make time to laugh. The importance of making me happy. These are key things. You know, how much laughter is really good for emotional well-being. Absolutely. Someone reflected on Mike's question earlier on how humor and laughter can be a coping mechanism and how to know the difference, or how it can be a negative coping mechanism. What else? For someone else on mic, do you want to share? Nayeli said in the chat, laughter gives you life. That is a good motto to take away. So I just have one more little funny that I'm going to share with you, and I hope that you will leave giggling, maybe reminiscing, feeling joyful, and sharing in that. This is about 3 minutes. And we're just going to give a little listen to Sebastian Maniscalco. Remember, humor is subjective. Okay, here we go. And there may be a commercial.
You might know Harbor Freight for affordability. What you might not know is performance and durability.
I was sitting in my house a couple weeks ago, just relaxing. My doorbell rang. This is weird. It's a different feeling when your doorbell rings today opposed to 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, your doorbell rang, that was a happy moment in your house. It's called company. You'd be sitting there on a Thursday night watching TV, your doorbell rang, the whole family shot off the couch. Oh my God! Put the lights on, somebody's here! We got people! The whole family went to the door. The kids were in socks, they slid up to the door. Nobody looked to see who it was. Right, you just opened up the door, you were like, oh my God, look at that. Look at us here. And you'd ask them, what the hell are you doing here? And the person would be like, I was in the neighborhood. I thought I might stop by, see how the kids are doing. They're like, oh, come on in. We're gonna have some cake. Your mother had a little Entenmann's. Maybe some Sara Lee crumble cake, just in case company came over. She made an announcement when she bought it. She's like, listen, nobody touch this cake. This is for company only. Those crap muffins, those are for you people. You better hope to God somebody comes over so we could cut the cake. She put her cake in the middle of the table, proud of it. Right? She put it right in the middle. Cut yourself a slice. Want a cup of coffee? We're gonna do want some Sanka? Yeah, that's old school. A lot of the young kids are looking at me like, what is that, an iPhone app? What the hell is Sanka? Your mother had a tin, brown and orange tin of Sanka. ready to go just in case the company. She put a big pot on the table. Go ahead. Nobody had a cell phone back then. If your house phone did ring, your father stood up and said, "Nobody get that phone. We got company." And you lost track of time. 2 hours went by. You were like, "We got to get out of here." That's okay. Next time we're gonna come by you, be like, "Yeah, my door's always open."
All right. So hopefully that left you with a little giggle, little nostalgia. I have said all that I have to say.